Maybe you're a big boy who purchased the collector's edition and you didn't get yourself some beta access. Well, Blizzard's going to end up emailing you a code. Yeah, recently Blizzard kind of released a press release that said people who ordered the big boy edition of the game, yeah, you're getting a big Stony Griffin toy, but you're not going to get beta access. Well, people were up in arms about this. It didn't go over well with the community. After you spend, what is it, $180? I would think you're supposed to get some beta access. So yes, Blizzard's actually got to fix that retroactively. They're going to email beta codes out to people by June 12th. So you can anxiously await your chance to test loading screens, because that's really what beta is at this point, is just testing the relog methods for how to get back into the game. Moving on to tier set bonuses. We're going to talk a little bit about these because tier set bonuses are a big deal. Yeah, they're changing the way they work, kind of, at least in Season 1. So Blizzard, before they released the tier set bonuses, did release a little statement about how they wanted them to affect the game. And basically in Season 1, they were saying they didn't want tier set bonuses to really do that much, right? They wanted them to be minimal, and that was because they wanted hero towns to really take a front row seat and be the primary focus of everybody, at least in this first season. So what they decided to do was give us tier set bonuses that were a bit, I don't know, lackluster. You know, kind of on the low end in terms of what they're going to do for us. They're really a lot of them. We're going to go through them. A lot of them are really just kind of like slight bonuses to some of our abilities, but nothing crazy like an extra limb or something like that. So we're going to get into these. The rest of this article really just gets into how Blizzard wants you to test them and give them feedback and all that stuff. But let's talk about these lackluster tier set bonuses. So we're going to go through all the classes here, and we're going to start with the best class in the game, of course, the Death Knight. So for Blood, 2-piece. Here we go. We're going to go 2-piece and 4-piece for each one of these sets, so just keep up with me here. While you have one or more Bone Shield charges, the damage taken is reduced by 2%, and losing Bone Shield charge has a chance to reduce the damage you take by an additional 1% up to 3 seconds. So that's an interesting interplay. Letting Bone Shield fall off can actually lead to some bonuses for you. That's a weird one. The 4-set piece. Your damage is increased by 1% per active Bone Shield charge. Taking damage while below 6 Bone Shield charges has a chance to generate 1 to 2 Bone Shield charges. So there's a bunch of Bone Shield interplay here with Blood. That's fine. I think they've been trying to change Bone Shield. I did see we're getting an ability, I believe it's a hero talent, that pops Bone Shield instantly, basically, when you enter combat. So we'll have to see how that interplays with these set bonuses. Frost, your runic spending abilities deal 8% increased damage, and consuming runic power has a chance to increase your strength by 10% for 8 seconds. So some little damage and strength bonuses there. Unholy. Your minions deal 8% increased damage, and when you summon a minion, your haste is increased by 2%, up to 8% for 8 seconds. So some minion bonuses there, and a little bit of damage increase. Again, so like just to quickly summarize here, you might think these are lackluster. The rest of the sets for the rest of the classes kind of follow that same theme and philosophy. Blizzard, again, wanted to keep hero talents at the forefront here, and it seems like they're going to be doing that. So for Demon Hunter, we have Havoc. Blade Dance deals 20% increased damage. Chaos Strike deals 20% increased damage and has a 25% chance to reset the cooldown of Blade Dance. So we got some Blade Dance and Chaos Strike interplay there. You're just increasing damage. That's what the set bonus is doing. Vengeance. Soul Cleave deals 15% increased damage and has a 35% chance to shatter one less soul fragment from the target it hits. And then the fourth piece here is consuming a soul fragment increases damage and healing for the next Fell Devastation by 2% up to 30%. So as consuming soul fragments, that's an interplay there. You got Soul Cleave damage increase. Yeah, again, some interesting, interesting but not so interesting, just increases, slight percentage increases in damage. All of these just seem like kind of passive bonuses. There's not much interplay with them. Maybe the way you deal with Bone Shield for the Blood DK was kind of an interesting one, but the rest of these, again, are just kind of increases. So here we go, Druid. We got 4 specs here. Balance. Star Surge damage increases by 8%. Starfall damage increased by 10%. And then we have Lunar Eclipse and Solar Eclipse. Each increase the Astral Power Wrath generated by 1 and Starfire generated by 2. So some, generation for Starfire and shit interplay there. Feral. Tiger's Fury increase your chance to critical strike for 10 seconds. starting at 6% and increasing by 1% every 2 seconds. So playing on Fury there. Critical Strike with your combo point, granting abilities increase the direct damage of your next Ferocious Bite and Rampant Ferocity or Primal Wrath by 15%, stacking up to 3 times. So 15% stacking up to 3 times actually seems pretty decent. I'm not going to lie. I mean, if my math is mathing here, what does that take you to? 45%? Right? That's pretty good. That's actually a pretty big bonus. Interesting. Okay, Guardian. Thrash and Moonfire. What's up? How's it going, my NM? Thrash and Moonfire increase your damage done and reduce damage taken by 1% for 8 seconds, stacks up to 3 times. So that's a nice little damage reduction. And then arcane damage you deal is increased by 5%, and bleed damage you deal is increased by 5%. So it seems like they're going with this across the board here. A little bit of for tanks, because we just saw it with Blood DK, now we're seeing it with Guardian. I mean, that makes sense as a tank. You're going to see some damage reduction bonuses and some damage dealing bonuses, and it seems like the 2 set of the 4 set are each going to play on each other that way. Restoration, Regrowth, Wild Growth, and Swift Men healing increased by 10%, so that's just an increase across the board. And then your healing is increased by 8% when consuming Soul of the Forest bonus for 6 seconds, and for 6 seconds afterward. So an interesting one there, and then, just a minimal 10% bonus across the board. Okay, Evoker. We got 3 specs to get into here. For Augmentation, Upheaval deals 3% increased damage and increases the damage of your next 2 eruptions cast by 30%. And then we have Ebb and Might increase primary stats by an additional 0.4% of your own every 2 seconds it remains active, up to 2%. So a 2% primary stat bonus? Oh. Okay. That's pretty boring. I'm not going to lie. As far as 4%, as far as 4-piece bonuses go, that one hits like a wet blanket. Okay. Devastation. Disintegrate damage increased by 10% and pyre damage increased by 10%. So some 10% increases there. Eternity Surge cooldown is decreased by 5% and it now grants Essence Burst. Okay. I don't know how devastating that's going to be for Devastation Evokers, but it's fine. And then Preservation. Reversion and Emerald Blossom heal an injured ally within 30 yards for 10% of any amount healed. Then we got the 4-piece. Verdant Embrace increases the healing of your next reversion by 200%. That's a large percentage, but I'm guessing it must not be a lot. Like the base number must not be a lot for you to be getting 200% here. Yeah, more boring, maybe more heals. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, 200% seems like a big number again, but this must be playing off a really small number here. But we'll have to see how these play off. Again, it's following that theme that Blizzard said. They're not lying when they said they're really going with just some very meh stat bonuses here. Okay, Hunter. Of course, the one that's going to pull early on the pull and raid. Here we go. Beast Mastery Hunter. Barbed Shot further increases your pet's attack speed by 5%. So, you're going to pop that Barbed Shot to get that attack speed up for your pet. And then your pet's attacks have a 10% chance to increase all pet damage you deal by 10%. Wow, that's a percentage on a percentage. There's a 10% chance to increase your pet damage by 10%. That's shitty. So only 10% of the time are you going to be getting your 4-set bonus? That's kind of garbage, I'm not going to lie. But whatever, okay. Marksmanship. Arcane Shot and Multi-Shot damage increased by 20%, just a stat bonus. They're just a increase there. Consuming Precise Shot increases the damage of your next aimed shot by 10%, stacking up to 2 times. Consuming Precise Shot increases your damage for the next aimed shot. Okay, by 10%, stacking 2 times. Okay, so use Precise Shot and then aim shot. Got it. Survival. Wildfire Bomb damage increased by 5%. Okay. And then Mongoose Bite and Raptor Strike deals 10% increased damage to targets affected by Wildfire Bomb. So Survival Hunters are going to be using Wildfire Bomb interplay a lot there. Does anybody still play Survival? What's going on with Survival? I feel like that's just like the lost spec for Hunters. Okay, but if you are playing Survival, you're going to be using Wildfire Bomb, I guess. These hero talents better be amazing for these tier set bonuses to be these swag. I agree. Now, this is only their Season 1 philosophy. I think they're planning on giving us something better for Season 2, but for Season 1, yeah, these are, yeah. Why no? I don't know why Tidewell. That's weird. Okay, mages. Here we go. Arcane. Arcane Blast and Arcane Explosion damage increased by 6%. And casting Arcane Blast or Arcane Explosion has a 10% chance to make your next Arcane Barrage deal 10% increased damage and generate 4 Arcane Charges. Again, a 10% chance of you getting your 4-piece set bonus. I don't really like how that interplay works. It's the same thing that we just talked about up here. Essentially, you're going to have a 4-piece set bonus that only really interplays with you 10% of the time. Interesting. It's a 10% chance. So, I mean, that chance could be worse or better sometimes based on RNG. Okay, here we go. Fire. Phoenix Flame's damage increased by 10%. This amount is increased to 25% on its primary target. And then after dealing damage, Phoenix Flames has a 10% chance to return to you, refunding 1% of cooldowns on Phoenix Flames and granting you 6% spell damage. Okay, so a lot of Phoenix Flames interplay here. So essentially for Fire Mage, Phoenix Flames boost damage boost is your tier set bonus. Frost. Ice Lance damage increased by 5% and Fingers of Frost increased damage for your next Frost Orb by 10%, stacking up to 10 times. Whoa, so that could be 100%. All right, 10 times 10. Oh, shit. That's a pretty big bonus there. And then Frozen Orb increased Ice Lance damage by 15% for 15 seconds. Okay, so we got some Frost Orb interplay as well on both of these. So Frost Orb's going to be pretty big for you if you're playing Frost Mage based on these bonuses. Okay, Monk. Lame. I think most of these are going to be lame, guys. Okay, Brewmaster. Blackout Kick and Keg Smash deal 20% additional damage. Yeah, and Shuffle also grants 3% damage reduction. And then we have Blackout Kick increases your damage dealt by 1% for 15 seconds, stacking up to 3, and has a chance to reset cooldown of Keg Smash and make the next cast cost no energy. Okay, so you're gonna have a little proc. You know, basically it's an insta cast for your Keg Smash. It's fine. Mistweaver. Enveloping Mist and Renewal Mist healing increased by 10%, so just a 10% boost there. And then Vivify extends the duration of Renewing Mist and Enveloping Mist on its primary target for 2 seconds up to 4 seconds. So a 10% boost in your healing and a 4 to 2 second increase on the duration. Yeah, nothing exciting there. Windwalker. Tiger Palm increased damage for the next melee ability by 5%. And then your melee abilities increase the damage of your next Tiger Palm by 25%, stacking up to 6 times. Damn. 150%? 15% of your Tiger Palm's damage is dealt onto the nearby enemies, reduced beyond 5 targets. That's really good, actually, for Mythic Plus. That's a nice Mythic Plus bonus there. Actually, Windwalker is not so bad. Not so bad, considering how this stacks and how this works. Tiger Palm will have a lot of interplay there, it looks like, with everything else, including your melee abilities. So that's not a bad one. Maybe Windwalker will be a pretty good one for Mythic Plus going forward. Okay, Paladin. Here we go. Holy. Holy Shock's healing increased by 10% and its cooldowns reduced by 10%. Holy Shock increase, and the other one is Holy Shock increases the initial healing of your next Word of Glory or Light of the Dawn by 8%, stacking up to 4 times. So if you stack it, I guess that's going to be good. And then just a 10% general increase for your healing, it looks like. Prot. Shield of the Righteous deals 10% increased damage and grants 3% reduced damage. Okay, so you got an increase in damage and a defensive there. And then casting Holy Power abilities increase damage and healing you deal during the next Avenging Wrath by 5%. That affects stacks. So this is an interesting one. I feel like Prot Paladins, unlike Druids and unlike Death Knights so far, got both of their set bonuses also give damage increases. Whereas the other two we saw, one set bonus gives a damage reduction, the other one gives a damage increase. So maybe Prot will be one of the better tanks going forward. Retribution Paladin. Blade of Justice damage increased by 15% and Wake of Ashes damage increased by 10%. So those are just 2 increases there. And then Wake of Ashes increases your damage done by 10%. So some Wake of Ashes interplay on both of those set bonuses there. That'll be interesting. I do feel like Ret Paladin right now is one of the most played classes in the game. So we'll have to see how this works out with their damage. Right now, they've been pumping. Doing pretty well. Okay, Priest. Here we go. Discipline. Atonement healing increased by 5%. Smite and penance increase the damage of your next mind blast by 25%, absorbing the amount of your next power ward shield by 15% up to 3 times. So that means if it stacks, if this is stacking, it's going to be 45%. But if it's up to 3 times, meaning 15%, then 15%, then 15% again, one after another, that's not so great. We'll have to see how that one plays out. I'm not quite sure yet. Holy. Serendipity is 10% more efficient. Okay. And then heal, flash heal, and prayer healing have a 50% chance to cast again at 35% effectiveness. So, I mean, when you're talking about chances of things happening for a 4-set piece, 50% ain't bad. I don't like the 10% ones that we read earlier because that feels kind of low. Like when you get a 4-set piece bonus, to only have it effective 10% of the time, kind of feels like shit. 50% ain't bad. That ain't bad. I'd rather it be 100, but 50, okay, you could deal with that, I guess. Shadow. The duration of Devouring Plague is increased by 1 second, and Devouring Plague increases your damage done by 2% for 10 seconds. Multiple applications may overlap. Okay. So stacking this Devouring Plague bonus up could lead to some decent shadow damage. We'll have to see how many times you can stack it, and it's for 10 seconds, so I mean, you can only, it's 1 second and then 10 seconds, 2%. So you could stack it 10 times, I guess, leading to a 20% bonus if my math is mathing here, but we'll have to see. Okay, rogues. Here we go. Ass. Currently the highest DPS in the game, right? That's one of the best specs in the game right now for rogues. When your bleeds deal damage, they have a chance to grant you Vile Tincture for 8 seconds, increasing your poison damage by 1% per stack up to 10 times, okay? And then while you have 5 or more stacks of Vile Tincture, Garret, Rupture, and Crimson Tempest deal 10% increased damage. So this is about, keeping that up, right? Keeping the poison on to increase your damage. Okay, that's how that's going to work. Outlaw. Your Sinister Strike, Pistol Shot, and Ambush have a 20% chance to Ethereal Rampage, dealing 50% increased damage as Shadow. Oh, wow. Is there some Shadow interplay going on here with the... I haven't looked at the Outlaw Rogue Hero talents, but I didn't realize they were playing with Shadow shit. That's kind of interesting. Okay, and then we have Ethereal Rampage additionally increases your damage of your next Between the Eye by 6%, stacking up to 3 times. That's an interesting one, too. So, I mean, we saw that the tier set for Rogues is very Ethereal-like. I didn't realize Outlaw Rogue was going to be having some Ethereal Shadow interplay going on here. Man, Outlaw might be a cool spec to play going forward. Okay. And then we got, of course, what is it? Sub-Titty. Yeah, Sub-Titty Rogue. Symbols of Death increases the damage of your next Secret Technique by 20%. And then Secret Technique increases the damage of your finishing moves by 16% for 7 seconds. That seems like a nice, actually, that seems pretty nice for PvP, I'm not going to lie. But we'll have to see how that works out when in PvE. Right now, Sub-Titty's at the very bottom of the DPS charts, so they need some help. I don't know if their hero talents are going to help them out, but I certainly don't think these set bonuses are really going to bring them out of that current lull that they're in. Okay, Shaman. Here we go. Elemental Blast / Earth Shock. Damage increased by 25%. Earthquake damage increased by 25%. And then spending a Maelstrom grants you 5% increased critical strike chance and a 10% increased critical damage dealt. Okay, so just some percentage increases in damage across the board for Elemental. Enhancement. Storm Strike, Lava Lash, Ice Strike, and Crashing Lightning deal 15% increased damage. And then Feral Spirits lasts 100% longer. So you're doubling your Feral Spirit uptime there. So, interesting. Okay, some increase in damage, fine. Restoration. Tidal Wave increases the healing of affected spells by 10%, and Tidal Wave also is 80% more effective and reduces the mana cost effects of spells by 8%. So a lot of Tidal Wave interplay there for Restoration Shamans. All of these are just, they are what they are. They're just going to increase some things across the board and percentage base, and that's it. Okay, Warlock. Affliction. Malefice Rapture damage increased by 5%, and its critical strike chance increased by 10%. And then we have Malefice Rupture has a chance to increase your damage dealt by your Agony Corruption and Unstable Affliction by 15% for 8 seconds. Okay, so playing off of that Malefice Rupture there. By the way, Warlock specs in general have been really mid-tier. For at least for this last season of Dragonflight, so it's been interesting to see Warlocks. Usually, one of their specs is usually the top 3, but they're not right now. Here we go, Demonology. Your primary demons deal 5% increased damage, and your Shadow Bolt damage is increased by 50%. Okay, so Shadow Bolt's going to be pretty pumped there. And then Shadow Bolt has a chance to enrage your primary Felguard, increasing the damage of your next Legion Strike by 300%. Damn. So we have a lot of interplay between your pets and your Shadow Bolt. Okay. By the way, Demonology I feel like is going to be a pretty popular one going forward with the hero talents, the ability to summon literal freaking like Fellhounds and shit. It's pretty crazy. You're summoning a raid boss essentially as a pet. It's pretty cool. Okay, Destruction. Incinerate critical strike chance increased by 20%. Okay. And then Conflagrate critical strike increased by 25%. When Conflagrate critical strikes, your fire damage is increased by 5% for 6 seconds. Meh. Nothing exciting there, just some percentage increases. Okay, and then last on the list here, Warrior. Let's see how this goes. Arms. Mortal Strike and Cleave increase damage of your next Overpower by 10%. And then we have when Overpower has its cooldown reset by Tactician, your next Mortal Strike or Cleave has its damage increased by 10% and critical strike chance increased by 10%, stacking up to 2 times, so, leading to a 20% increase essentially. Not bad. I mean, I guess you got some Overpower and Tactician interplay there going on. Fury. Bloodthirst increases the damage of your next Rampage by 10%. And then when Raging Blow resets its cooldown, the damage of your next Bloodthirst is increased by 10%, stacking up to 2 times. Again, another 20% stack here. On top of this, already 10% here. So we got some Rage Blow Rampage interplay with Bloodthirst as well. Protection, okay? Let's see how this tanking one works. When your Shield Slam cooldown is reset by Strategist, you gain Expert Strategist, increasing your damage from Shield Slam by 5% and reducing all damage taken by 3%. Okay, so that's a common theme here we've seen with these 2 set bonuses on tanks. A little bit of damage and a little bit of prot. And okay, then we have Shield Slam Critical Strike increases the damage dealt by Thunderclap and Revenge by 10%, so a 10% increase there. So a lot of interplay here with Shield Slam. So Shield Slam will be pretty important here for the prot bonus. Overall, these are nothing to get too excited about. Yeah, they're going to increase your damage. They're going to increase your ability to tank a little bit. But nothing in terms of like changing your rotation in any way. It's very much going to play the same way. Hero talents will be the focus in Season 1, it looks like. And that was their goal. And it looks like they achieved it based on these bonuses here.